Hey everybody, welcome to Techforpsych, where we combine the latest neurotechnology with ancient wisdom to supercharge your brain. I'm Dr. Cody Rall, your medical doctor confidant. It's been a little while since I've filmed outside, but I wanted to talk about meditation today. I've been having some of the most amazing meditation sessions of my life, and I wanted to talk about that on this channel. Going back to using the Muse headband, I've really been using this device a lot with my clients to investigate how neurotechnology can increase our ability to meditate. And we've been doing a lot of neurofeedback exercises to create tools that we can use during the meditation to enhance our meditative sessions. One of the things that I noticed when getting into the regular Muse app is that the app responds very well when you have your attention on the breath. You get the positive feedback, you hear the birds, the scene quiets down in the audio feedback, and you get big scores at the end. But I've really been diving into thinking, like, what is that? What is that concentration on the breath? And how is that eliciting an amazing meditation experience? One of the things that I noticed when I was actually doing the Muse exercises daily is that I would be concentrated on the breath to get the good scores, and then this interesting phenomena happened at the end of the meditation session. I would actually, instead of getting distracted, concentrate on the breath, and then when the meditation session ended, I gave myself permission to follow bliss, follow good meditative energy that came from the actual session. And sometimes I would have the most amazing experiences after the session ended. And I didn't understand why that was. Why was it that during the actual meditation session, when I was following the breath with the Muse, I had a decent meditation session, but after the actual session with the Muse, after the device had turned off, my mind blew up into meditative bliss. And I found some really interesting information in this book that I recently read called Mindfulness Bliss and Beyond by Ajahn Brahm, a meditator's handbook. And this was recommended to me by a friend. And I'd have to say this book really opened my eyes in a meditative strategy that is really working for me right now, and I think might work for you, and really explains a lot of what's going on with the Muse meditation headband with attention on the breath, and how that can create meditative bliss that you can follow into amazing sessions that make you want to sit there for 30 minutes straight just blissing out. Incredible energy coming out of those sessions. I've talked about this other book quite a bit on my meditation channel, The Mind Illuminated by Culadasa. And really where I'm at right now is I really feel like this book is more of an encyclopedia for meditative tools. It takes a long time to get through. You have to comb through each chapter and digest it over time. And there's so much in here to investigate that it really can encompass an entire meditation career, if you will, meditation path, meditation journey, to understand everything that he's talking about in here. That's not to say that it wouldn't take an entire lifetime to figure out what is going on in descriptions of the meditator's handbook as well. But what I like about this book is that he simplifies things and breaks things down through examples and analogies that I found so illuminating when it comes to my meditative experience. One of the things that you start to realize when you advance in your meditative practice is that if you attain unification of the mind on a single meditation object, there seems to be this bliss that comes out of nowhere. It really is this feeling of just letting go and being in the present moment, and then you get this automatic euphoria that comes out of that. It's the weirdest thing. It's like this energy is just coming out of the vacuum of space and electrifying your brain. And it might be testament to how scattered our brains are, how many processes we have going on simultaneously, things that distract us from the present moment. And perhaps focusing our attention on the present moment brings such bliss because all of the brain circuits within our neurocircuitry are firing and resonating with each other on the same frequency pattern. And this just releases all these neurotransmitters that feel amazing in the moment. And in order to harness that, it takes a lot of practice over the years to gain the ability to have your attention focused on the breath. And everybody starts out somewhere, but usually when you start out in meditation and you attempt to keep your attention on the breath, very quickly you notice that your attention quickly deviates within a couple of seconds, if not half a minute. There's only so much raw power, raw concentration, raw effort that you can put into your reticular activation system, which is your attention control within your brain, to keep it on one subject for that long. The only thing that you can use to overcome that is if that subject is very engaging. Think of how long you've stared at a computer screen or the TV screen, or listened to a piece of music that was engaging, that was so beautiful that it pulled you into the actual experience. What's amazing about meditation is you can utilize mindfulness, sati, to notice every little nuance of the meditative object. And it might be the breath. You might notice every tiny little minuscule vibration and expansion and volume and temperature of the air coming in, and how you hypnotically pay attention to the breath to pull you into the moment, into which you really appreciate the breath and really can generate this feeling like the breath is an old friend that you enjoy being with. And through that arises this joy. And the joy can actually become its own meditation object. And I've noticed this over the years. Usually what I'll do is generate mindfulness from the very beginning. So I'll sit down, do a body scan, notice where my body is sitting on the earth to awaken my brain to the present moment. Then I'll practice metta, which is feeling appreciation for what I have going in my life. And that's a very powerful method to awakening the neurotransmitters and the brain circuits within your neurocircuitry to generate awareness and appreciation and excitement for getting into the meditative session. And then going into centering on the breath and eliciting this appreciation for the breath. Another method that I've been utilizing, if you've seen some of my other videos, is in the preparation, I'll go through each one of the energy centers and bless each one of the energy centers. Joe Dispenza talks a lot about this, and it's a method of pranayama and Kriya Yoga, and you can actually bless each energy center up the spine and open it up. Joe Dispenza talks about bringing your attention to the space around the energy center within your spine, blessing it, and opening that up to experience. And it almost feels like a blossoming and opening up that area within your spine. And if you do that all the way up the chain, you start to feel a circulation of energy throughout. You sense an opening and an openness to the experience. And really that's my priming. That's, setting the ground floor with the mindfulness on a body scan, bringing loving awareness into the present moment through metta, opening up the energy centers through pranayama and Kriya Yoga, and then returning to the breath, That's why I recommend with my clients do those three things that I just described before actually engaging with the Muse headband. And if you bring in that grounded mindfulness and then calibrate with the Muse headband and then move into the breath and use the neurofeedback to keep your attention on the breath, what is called samadhi, and harness and cultivate samadhi through awareness of the breath, the mindfulness part with sati, you elicit the unification of the mind. Because what happens is you've awoken your neurocircuitry, it's resonating different circuits together on the same frequency, and you're harnessing your attention on the same object. And what starts to happen is this erroneous bliss that just comes out of nowhere. It's the most amazing thing. And what you start to notice is that the bliss will actually distract you from the breath. You can use the breath and the beautiful breath and treat it like a friend and have it draw you into the experience deeper into meditation. And then going back to the Muse headband exercise, what I would notice is that this bliss would rise up. It's hard to tell where the bliss is actually going to rise up, and the bliss will have different characters to it. In this book, Ajahn Brahm talks about the Nimitta, and I believe that these are the Nimitta that are rising up behind the breath. And you'll notice this if you practice for long enough and you've got unification of mind on the breath. You've got this erroneous bliss that's coming up, and you get the sense that there's colors and there's shapes to these objects that come up. Obviously, you've got your eyes closed and you're shutting down all your senses, and you're not visually seeing these objects, but you're sensing them. And the way that he describes it in this book is that the bliss is so alien, so unknown to our five senses during our everyday waking life, that our mind tries to comprehend what these objects actually are and erroneously assigns shapes and colors to them. And what you can do is, through your mind's eye, through your awareness, be aware of the shape and the color of the Nimitta and the quality of the Nimitta. It might be tingly, it might be soft, it might be a number of different feelings. And being aware of the feeling draws you into it because, again, it has this bliss feeling to it. It's attractive, it attracts your attention. And what I was doing before is I would have my attention on the breath and then get distracted by the nimitta. And what Ajahn Brahm talks about in this book is that if you go off to the nimitta too quickly, they'll fizzle out. Because when they first start to arise, they're kind of opaque, they're kind of dull, they don't have like the radiant energy that comes with a very strong nimitta. And at that point, you should just focus on the breath for longer before a stronger nimitta comes up. And he had this amazing analogy that I resonated with so much because as a boy growing up in Alaska, I would go into the woods all the time and just sit and wait for animals to come out. Such cool animals in Alaska. You know, we had the regular rabbits and squirrels, but also you had moose, bear, that type of thing. Luckily, I didn't run into too many bears when I would go out in the wilderness, but we definitely did see them from time to time. But the point is that when you go out into the woods and you sit quiet and still, the creatures get used to you there and they actually get curious and they come out to investigate you. He told the story of this Buddhist monk that would go out to this lake in the forest and sit and wait for the creatures to come out. And the longer the monk sat in quiet, the more exotic the creatures that would come out to investigate him. And if he sat really quiet, they would come and investigate. But if he got all excited and directed his attention to them, they would run off. And that's exactly what the nimitta are. That's exactly how you should treat the nimitta. Concentrate on the breath, allow the breath to draw you in. Don't get distracted by the little nimitta that come out as you are experiencing unification of the mind. Wait, continue your attention on the breath. It's exactly what I was experiencing with the Muse headband. The nimitta would come up, but because I was dedicated to get a better score on the Muse headband app, I didn't get distracted by the nimitta. So I let the first couple of nimitta go, but then once the exercise was finished, I got curious and I allowed my mind to go off to the nimitta. And when you do that, you get a buildup of bliss upon bliss upon bliss that really creates some amazing energetic sessions. I mean, the energy coming out of these nimitta are awe-inspiring. You get these things called PD that actually make you shake a little bit at times. I have to consciously like relax my muscles in order to handle the energy coming from the nimitta. You know, I'm not a master meditator by any means, and I know I have a lot to work to do, but it's amazing to feel these energetic sensations come out of these meditative objects that are either the breath or the nimitta. And eventually you get to what Ajahn Brahm talks about and also Culadasa talk about is when a very powerful nimitta comes your way, you can enter into a state called jhana, which is complete absorption into meditative bliss that really shuts down all your five senses and allows you to observe the true nature of the universe and gain wisdom and eventually enlightenment if you had like a really dedicated Buddhist path. But in just hearing these descriptions and experiencing them on my own, it makes it so exciting for me to engage in meditation and also investigate it with neurotechnology. We've been seeing so many different neural patterns come out of our expert meditators in groups like the Raising Vibration group and other groups that have been associated with neurotechnology and meditation. One of the analogies that he used in this book that I really feel like we are developing with the neurotechnology community is these different tools. He likened a master meditator to a master carpenter. So a carpenter will be able to take a look at a piece of wood and understand all the tools and processes necessary to make a beautiful piece of furniture. Whether that's using the correct sandpaper, whether it's fine ground or coarse ground to rub it down, whether to use some kind of coating on it at the end, and different types of saws, whatnot. All these different tools are necessary to shape the wood into the final product, but the wood, the quality of the wood determines what tools are necessary to get it to the final product, and the wood is the mind. So a master meditator can take a look at their own mind and understand, needs a little bit of attention here, needs a little bit of sati, we need more samadhi over here, we need more metta, loving kindness. All these ingredients to put into a meditative session to take a bucking, random, wild mind and cultivate it into unification of the mind on the meditation object to allow this endogenous happiness, these nimitta to arise, to lead you towards these amazing experiences called jhana. So I really feel like using neurotechnology, we're able to use SMR to harness attention. We can use different levels of beta to track elevations of energy that we can put into the energy centers to go back down into attention. We can use different parameters on neurofeedback or even other stimulation technologies that are coming out in order to build our tool set. We can build our tool set as an apprentice carpenter, learning each one of the little individual tools that you can use later on in a beautiful, nuanced meditative session that allows you to achieve amazing results. And that's really what we're doing, is developing all these different tools to allow us to harness our attention, our awareness, our loving kindness, to have these amazing meditation sessions and really create all the benefits that you hear about meditation. So that's really exciting. What you see out of these meditators is a whole unique signature of brainwaves. They've opened up their alpha waves to act as a conduit between the higher gamma waves and lower theta waves that allow their brains to resonate on a level that most people can only dream of reaching. And when they get these energy surges, there's these big spikes in beta and gamma, and then their deep meditative absorptions have this huge spike in theta. And there's definitely some variations, but definitely some trends that we're seeing on the neurofeedback that are really inspiring. And I think that we can use these devices to accelerate our ability to develop unification of the mind on the breath, experience nimitta, and get pulled into these jhana experiences that are really enlightening. So I'm really excited about where this is all going. Some of the other analogies that were used in this book were you have to learn all the different tools in order to use them at different times. You have to know when it's right to become more mindful on the breath and more present, so that you focus your attention like a razor sharp edge on the present moment that makes you that much more aware, and you get the meditative bliss coming out of that to enhance your samadhi. You have to understand when things are a little bit flat and you need to induce more metta, more loving kindness into the meditation, so that it's more full-bodied, more thankful, more substance. So you're releasing more neurotransmitters, which allow you to get that cascade effect going into the nimitta. You have to remember to set up psychological barriers to make sure not to get pulled into the past or the future, and remain in the present in order to facilitate this whole process. You have to let go. That's one of the biggest points in this book that I think that I have difficulty with, and is my main challenge, is probably a lot of other people's main challenge as well, is letting go. Even in the face of these powerful nimitta that are sucking you into amazing amounts of energy, you have to trust the process and allow it to suck you in. Fear of going crazy because of the experience, or feeling unworthy of the experience, or being lazy through sloth and torpor. These are all the 5 hindrances that Buddha talked about, and I'd love to make a video on those as well. But you know, all these different hang-ups keep you from getting pulled into the nimitta, into these amazing experiences called jhana that can show you the true nature of the universe, which is empty space, apparently. I'll let you know if I ever obtain enlightenment, although in the book he did say that if you have obtained enlightenment, that you shouldn't tell anybody, that you should actually only tell your master, or communicate with your master, in order to understand that you actually have reached that level. And that was the last point that I wanted to make in this video. Is the other analogy that I loved in this book was the path to enlightenment. He talks about the lotus flower, the 1,000-petal lotus flower, and that the center of the lotus flower is the enlightenment, and the petals are surrounding it, and you slowly get the little petals opening up one by one on your spiritual path towards the center to obtain this view of the true nature of the universe. And even with only 5 or 10 petals opened up, you're encountering these awesome energies of the nimitta and getting pulled closer to jhana experiences. And that the path has so much substance, it's so rich in it, that only 5 or 10 petals in, you're having these awe-inspiring encounters with unification of the mind and these energies that come out of the meditation, that you may think that you're enlightened already on the path. But what he reassures you is that the path is much longer, that there's levels of bliss and meditation that are otherworldly, that you had no idea that you were able to even think of obtaining. So the 1,000-petal lotus flower is the analogy of that, of being humble, maintaining the path, and continuing your journey. And even if you have these amazing experiences, knowing that you still have a long ways to go. I know I have a long ways to go, but I'm really enjoying the journey with all of you, and I appreciate everybody's support, and I can't wait to use more of this neurotechnology to enhance these different tools. So I hope you enjoyed the analogies of the boy in the woods, the carpenter, as well as the 1,000-petal lotus flower, in order to assist you in your understanding of your journey. I would highly recommend both of these books to check out for meditation and using with your Muse headband, or other neurotechnologies that we might encounter in this channel. There's so many that are coming out right now. It's really exciting. So talk to you again next week. This is Dr. Cody Rall, Techforpsych. Thanks so much.